Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. If I can get your attention as we prepare to begin the 2024 Legislative Breakfast. It's so great to see everybody here this morning, all of our elected officials, all of our esteemed guests, of course, my fellow board colleagues, our fellow board commissioners. I see Commissioner Simmons here, Commissioner Patterson, Commissioner Griffin, and President Elliott is here. The superintendent is here. So to all of our esteemed guests, it is great to see you here this morning. Can we please give it up for the Soda Band? They did their thing this morning. And so I want to welcome and thank everybody for joining us this morning at the Rochester Board of Education's annual legislative breakfast for the Rochester City School District. My name is Commissioner Santiago. I am honored to be the chair of the Community and Intergovernmental Relations Committee on the Rochester City School Board. Today we have the honor of convening and addressing some of the critical issues that we deal with in our district and how we can work together to advocate to change these issues. As we have conversation and as we move towards a better Rochester, as we move towards a one RCSD, I think that we have to understand that the work doesn't start and end inside of the RCSD, but that it takes all of us to move collaboratively together. It takes all of us to stand in conjunction and in unity, saying that we are going to fight for the education of our young people. And a lot of times there are some barriers that hold us back to these things towards providing adequate education, and some barriers that we deal with as a district and certainly as an urban district in New York State. And because of this, we create our legislative agenda to really tackle some of the concerns that we have as a district. And so this year, the process was not too much different, but a little different. Of course, I joined in January and was elected as chair of the committee. And we began to process the agenda, and I ensured before the agenda was proposed to our board, I ensured that I presented in front of our student government. And when I went in front of our student government with this proposed agenda, one of the things that they really stood on and one of the things that they really supported was our CTE and our CTE ask in our agenda. And so with that being said, I invite everybody to look at the legislative agenda. It should be on your tables if everybody can open it up. It should be in the pamphlet that you have, I believe. I didn't get one yet, so there we go. Thank you, Dr. Peluso. And so as you look in there, you'll see, I believe it's 11 priorities. These priorities are priorities that we spoke about, and we really looked into both our local government, but also our state government. And we had conversations on what are the asks that we need in our district. And last week, me, Dr. Peluso, and Chief Romez Lopez, we went to Ramos Lopez, I apologize. We went to Albany, New York to lobby. And while there, I was able to meet with the Commissioner of Education, our delegation, which thank you to the delegation for coming out, which I would like to say, our delegation in the city of Rochester shows up. There was a lot of, yes, let's give it up for our delegation. If all of our delegation members could please stand up, our assembly members, our senators, let's give it up for them. Please, let's give it up for them. We were able to get the entire state delegation to sit down in a meeting, and we had some conversations. And as I presented the legislative agendas and the legislative priorities, or at least a proposed before we passed it, I asked the students, what pops out to you? What do you really believe needs to be asked? And what all the student government agreed on was expanding the special service aid for our CTE programs. Our young people want opportunities. And as we have conversations about creating pipelines of success, pipelines of opportunity for our young people in Rochester, New York, we have to talk about our CTE program and strengthen that. And not only talk about the traditional CTE program, but also speak about the opportunities that's in our world currently and allowing our young people to be advanced in opportunities for when they graduate from our district, there's nothing but success in front of them. As we talk about success of our young people, we need to talk about certifying our young people before they leave our district. Whether, and the conversation is always based, if our young people aren't going to college, they need to be in CTE. We have to change that whole look. If our young people are going to college, they still need a CTE certification. Because this is not only an opportunity, and I want to say this also, when I speak right now, I am speaking on behalf of Isaiah Santiago. Commissioner Santiago, not the entire board, as on behalf of myself. But as we have these conversations, these are opportunities for our young people to succeed while in college. As I've graduated from the district, I have experienced some friends who have dropped out of college throughout the last few years. And what I've heard from most of these friends that have dropped out, and we have graduated 2 years ago, is either because they cannot financially sustain themselves while in their institution, or because they cannot keep up with the academics. And so these are two things that we have to fix. But part of the way of fixing that is giving our young people opportunities to make $20 an hour while in college. Giving our young people opportunities to really be on a path of success. So our young people really agree that the CTE program is something that we must upgrade, something that we have to work on. And so our legislative priority and our legislative ask is that we expand the special service aid in the state ledge. The reason why we ask that is because I think right now it's capped at 3,600? 3,900. And so in a lot of times, you know, there's a lot of movement in that. And so our request is that we also move the grade to 9th grade when it comes to that service. I believe right now it's 10th, 11th, and 12th that this special service cap aid is to for the urban district, for the city of Rochester. We want to expand that for our 9th graders to also have the opportunity to engage in CTE programs. Another ask that we spoke about, and that also I support, and I've been hearing a lot of the young people support, is the positive school climate ask, which is supporting the Solutions Not Suspensions bill. When I say this, I mean the Solutions Not Suspensions bill and the Assembly. There's two separate bills right now, but right now our support and the support of a lot of our young people, the children's agenda, is really pushing behind the Solutions Not Suspensions bill in the Assembly. And so this is an ask that as we have conversation on our young people, we have to look at how we have old policies, old processes in place that does not cater to the new issues, the new circumstance, and the new generation that we're looking at. And so as we have conversations of succeeding, we have to look at how suspensions are really, really, really failing our young people when it's misused, Because I do believe in consequence every once in a while. If you're violent, if you're really, at harm of others, and there's a consequence that we have to do, then we have to do that. But when we have more conversations on solutions behind even suspending, we need to look at restorative justice. We need to look at how are we having and teaching our young people how to de-escalate, because then we have an opportunity not only to help our young people in the school building, but we have an opportunity to help our young people for a lifetime. So as we speak about RCSD, we can't only talk about how we're succeeding our young people in the district, but how are we succeeding our young people for a lifetime? And so when we speak about solutions, not suspensions, we have an opportunity to give our young people a chance to actually sit down and talk. Suspensions are statistically failing young people. Statistically, whether it's from missing academics, whether it's from getting engaged into actions that's outside their schools. I'll tell you guys, in middle school, I don't mind telling the story because some people look like they don't believe me. In middle school, I was in this program, it was called SOAR. It's called SOAR. And in this program, and remember I graduated 2 years ago, so this must have been maybe 5-7 years ago, so not under the current administration, so this is not a shot at them. But I was in this program called SOAR, and they put us in the ISS room for half of the school day. This is students that they didn't want in the classroom. They wanted us separate from everybody else. So they put us in the ISS room for half of the day for a marking period. And it was students, about 10 of us, and I had two main friends, and at the end of the half of the day, They gave us an RTS pass and kicked us out of the building. With no adult supervision, we were given an RTS pass to take the transit system as middle schoolers. And so at first, of course, we engage, in going home. But then our parents are working, single parents in poverty households. So we start engaging in things that's going on around the community. I had the privilege to have a godmother who began to pick me up when she heard I was getting involved. And what she did is she started bringing me to construction sites to learn construction. And so I had that privilege, but the two main friends that I had in this program didn't have that privilege. And today as we speak, one was killed at 15 years old in 2020. And when I tell you I watched the beginning of him getting involved into what he got involved in, and that is because of a program like this when it comes to suspensions. What we felt like as young people in that moment is that there was somebody else giving up on us. And so this really made us feel like we had a community in our trouble. And so in our trouble, the way that we dealt with that was to temporarily satisfy it by getting engaged into stuff we shouldn't have gotten engaged in middle school. But if we had a support system, if we had solutions and not only suspensions, we could see some real change happen. So we're asking for support and solutions, not suspensions, in the Assembly bill. Another ask that we have is the social emotional / mental health, health and mental health services. The ask is to reinstate and increase school health services funds and provide critical resources to meet social and emotional needs. We've been hearing our young people ask for this. We've been hearing their requests for mental health support. We've been seeing studies. We've been seeing a lot of things since the pandemic, and we know that our young people need social emotional support. And what we've been seeing in our district is we have clinical social workers in almost all of our schools. Is that correct? In every school, we have clinical social workers. We have telehealth in 4 years will be in every school for young people to have appointments at any school that they're at virtually. We also have 8 schools that have clinical sites on the campgrounds. And I'll tell you guys personally, my sister is currently still in the district. I'm the oldest of 5 siblings, but 3 goes to the Rochester City School District. And the school clinics have been a miracle for my family and my mother. So we're asking that is reinstated and increased, and we're asking this to our state legislators. So that's only 3 of the asks. And I want to really transition over to the superintendent for the other ask in this legislative agenda. So without further ado, please give it up for the superintendent.
Good job. Well, good morning. It's been a week. I don't know if I could bring Commissioner Santiago energy. Man, he's got it, right? So, want to talk a little bit about what Commissioner had mentioned, as well as some of our additional legislative priorities for this coming year. But I also wanted to start with what we have done already with some federal stimulus funds that we're going to lose, and I worry about how we're going to continue to offer these services. And one of them here, and Commissioner had mentioned it, is our telemedicine initiative. Right? We doubled our health-based clinics from 8 to 16, and we have a commitment to have telemedicine in every school within the next 4 years. We did that with a commitment of federal stimulus funds from the district, but we also had support from ESL, Wegmans, the county, University of Rochester to make that happen. We're going to have to sustain that moving forward with some Medicaid support. Right? And that's going to be there. And this is not your typical telemedicine. This isn't call in and hear from a doctor in Colorado. No offense or enough shade at the doctors in Colorado. But this is about seeing your doctor in your community. Right, and the impact that could happen. Also the impact it could have on families not have to worry about scheduling appointments outside of a work day, taking off of work, chronic absenteeism. We could give care right in the schools for acute illnesses as well as social emotional. We were also able to create the center picture, our hub, which is healing, understanding, and belonging. And the commissioner talked about suspensions, not solutions, right? In cases where we could bring students back with community, because we have community partners, district employees, they're working collaboratively to help heal and restore relationships. Suspensions, that's a solution. But once again, with the loss of federal stimulus funds, we won't have the ability to do that. We also have our up in the top left-hand corner there, that's our telemedicine. We also have our teacher residency program. Right, this year, and last year, we have a grant for next year as well. We're fortunate, all grants that we have to kind of seek for is having teachers do residencies in district. They're with us for the year, they get a salary, they take their certification classes, they work with mentors, better preparing our teachers for the classrooms. Right, so all of these things, as well as we ended with a job shadow day on February 5th through February 9th, where our students had the opportunity to go and job shadow in CTE programs, and they caught, I think at the end of it, they did 400 hours of work-based learning and were accompanied by 80 chaperones. So those are the programs that we've been able to sustain and do with federal stimulus funds that are in our legislative priorities. So these are things we've done and we know have had an impact, but are worried about how is this going to be funded moving forward, and that's why it's there within the legislative priorities. Some of the other legislative priorities are charter schools, and there's been a lot of talk about charter schools, right? We have 7,800 charter school students. We're upwards of 28% of our student population. You know, this has a strain on the system in many ways, right? That's more places for us to spread resources to. It's $135 million out of our budget this year. But I also want to talk a little bit about equity, because we're a district right now of 21% students with disabilities and upwards of 18% of students that are English language learners. We're hitting a 40% mark of students that are going to need some additional supports. Our charter school rates of the 7,800 students are 8% students with disabilities and 4% of English language learners. So as those expand, what we're catching here is potentially RCSD becoming a high needs district with high levels of supports, high costs, and we just need to make sure that we have the funding necessary to support that. And when we talk about our English language learners and immigrant families, we've accepted, and I think this county and the city, in particular, this city did it right with the asylum seekers. The RTA reached out to us the other day and asked us from NYSET, because NYSET would like to do a story on how Rochester has welcomed those families into the district. And we have, I think at this point in time, 150 new students in our district, which we want to wrap our arms around and keep here for the duration of their education. But we've had to spend and send a lot of services, send them to State Street, get the interpreters, do the registration. Our staff has been great. Everyone's getting out there doing it. This is reimbursable at next year. We need cost reimbursed at this year. Right, we're doing these services now. That cost needs to come to us this year. The teacher staff shortage, I talked a little bit about. You know, we need to fund residency programs. We know that you know, they're effective in making sure that our teachers come in prepared. The last thing we want to do is bring a teacher in from college, them spend a year with us and leave the profession, go somewhere else. We know that people are leaving the teaching profession at droves. We're not getting them. We also need to look at how we're certifying. I know the state is doing some work along with teacher certification, but you know, when we have teachers coming in that are certified in other states and they are not able to be certified with us, sometimes within neighboring cities, neighboring states that aren't that far away. I just think we have to make sure that we're providing easy transitions to certification for our staff to make sure they are. And then the people that have a wealth of experience that are coming into the field from the trades, what does it look like for them regarding certification? Technology, all districts across the state and across the country spent a lot on technology during COVID, right? And we need to kind of take a look at how are we funding this moving forward? All of those devices that went out are now at an end of life cycle. The technology aid for software and hardware has remained constant for years for reimbursement. We're looking for another maybe smart bond initiative release of funds or grants, but also how could technology be a sustainable revenue stream and budgets moving forward? And then lastly but not least, I'll talk about transportation. And this one really resonates, I believe, with this board and has for years. We have a 1.5 mile reimbursement rate for transportation. The suburbs and rural districts are able to use something called a safe school zone, where they're able to qualify for aid for transportation under 1.5 miles. We're not able to take full advantage of that, and it really makes it difficult for our families. I was a principal in this district, and it broke my heart when a parent would have to come in and say, here's my transfer paper. And your immediate reaction is, oh, what did I do wrong? Do you not like the teacher? What is it I could do? Oh, I love it, but it's getting cold. I have a baby. I gotta put the baby in the stroller, walk my 5-year-old to school, because in 1.5 miles, they have to get to school on their own under 1.5 miles. Right? If you look at the suburban districts, right, wrong, and different, they're being picked up at their door. Right? If we want to talk about equity, we want to talk about attendance, we want to talk about getting our kids to schools, this is critical. Right? This is critical. We want to talk about kids going to schools within their neighborhood. I know our communities would be more, and our staff and our students would be more willing to go to a school if they knew that they had transportation to and from the schools. And so that's really an important initiative. We've been talking about this a ton. It's something that this board has been talking about for years, and I really do believe it helps, because one of the next things I do want to share is, as we begin our strategic planning, and what we've talked about and you've seen all around is our Invest in Tomorrow, right? We're at the end and almost at the completion of a new strategic plan. And I've been thoroughly pleased with the process, the engagement from our stakeholders, our steering committee, to our board's engagement. At the end of this, we'll have strong core priorities, a mission, a new vision, core values that I don't think we've revisited as a group and talked about in such a long time, that once we have everyone behind them, that kind of centers ourselves on moving forward. So really impressed with that, and please wait March. We're bringing it forward to the board for approval for a 24-25 school year, and we will plan some kickoffs on our new strategic plan. Really excited about what that looks like. Oh, I think you're one slide ahead of me. And the last thing I want to talk about is what we're making our investment in tomorrow. This year has been a tough year because there were some tough decisions that had to be made. And it was not easy for this Board of Education or for myself, as I had to go out and reorganize this district, right, which included school closures as well. And I think, is there another slide on this, Tom? I think there's two. No, that's the last slide. No, one more? Thank you. So I just want you to kind of look at this graph, and then in your legislative priorities, there's a page that says district profile. And on there, there's a section, there's 45 total schools. And which was really important for me was to organize our schools in a way that made sense for our families. And so we will be implementing for 24-25 pre-K 6, 7, 8, and 9, 12 schools, where most of them will be organized by zone. But if you look at the 45 in the total schools, look at the total of configurations we've been operating with. We have pre-K 6, we have pre-K 8, we have K 8, we have 7, 12, we have 6, 8, 7, 8, 9, 12, K 12. Right, and really making a conscious effort to be within a space which is organized that makes sense for our families and our community, and also maximizes our facilities and resources. Because if you've been a part and seen any of our schools that have gone through FMP 1, Facilities Modernization 1, Facilities Modernization 2, and you walk through those buildings and what we're entering in Facilities Modernization 3, and you walk around those buildings, I will put them up against any building in any place around here. They are beautiful, they have modern technology, they look great, they're great for our kids, the colors are great, there's a lot of energy around them, the furniture, everything about them is vibrant. We wanna make sure we're maximizing them. The state gave us money to utilize to create these buildings. We have to make sure we're maximizing them to the fullest capacity. This addresses for the ability for us to do that as well, but it gives us the opportunity to make sure we're putting certificated staff in front of our kids, maximizing that opportunity, because I will tell you, I've been in other places. And when I had a sub in a classroom for over a week or 2 weeks, my phone would ring as an assistant principal, because the principal didn't want to take the call. And they would send it to the assistant principal, and they'd say, where's the certified teacher in that classroom? Right? And I want our families to have that opportunity, and I also want our families to be calling us and saying, hey, where's the certified teacher in my classroom? Because that's important. Right now, we have other issues that we just talked about. We have to enhance ways to get teachers certificated. We have to make sure we're addressing the teacher shortage. But we want to make sure we're maximizing our certified staff as best we can in all areas. That's teaching. That's the same one, boiler certification for our custodians, for all areas to make sure they're certified as well in beautiful facilities, maximizing our extracurricular opportunities. And that will help us, right? Because we know a school is 4 walls, a classroom's 4 walls, but the magic is what happens inside of them. The magic is what happens inside of them. And I just want to show a video here about what we believe is what the magic is going to be in the Rochester City School District. Thank you.
This is a year of excitement and positive change that will bring new beginnings. It's a year of preparation and hard work, where excellence is our guiding light in both principle and practice. What does the future of our district look like as we invest in tomorrow? How do we ensure that every student feels seen, affirmed, and valued? Our students, our tomorrow. Classrooms that serve as laboratories of innovation, where students are encouraged to explore, question, and create. Highly qualified educators who set high expectations and believe in our students' potential. Invested staff who help build students' futures and dreams by cultivating a love of learning that will stay with them for a lifetime. Modernized facilities with programming to meet the diverse interests of our students. Middle schools focused on preparing students for high school academically and emotionally. Athletics that promote physical fitness, skill development, sportsmanship, and personal growth while fostering school spirit and community engagement. Safe and nurturing spaces so every student can thrive, with access to school-based health centers, telemedicine, social-emotional supports, and specialized mental health services. Opportunities and resources for every student, regardless of their zip code. Technology, extracurricular activities, and real-world experiences in all of our schools. As we stand on the threshold of this remarkable journey, picture a future where our students are not just prepared for the world, but equipped to reshape it. Learning that inspires and empowers the next generation, focusing on our tomorrows today.
So we know with the right focus, the right supports, our ability to collaborate, that's what's happening even as of today. Right? So all the negative stuff you hear, I just want you to know, when you look at this is what's happening in our schools today as well. So thank you. I'm very, very optimistic and hopeful for what we're going to be seeing in our future in this district. We thank you for your support. We thank the Board of Education for their support, and we're going to continue to work every single day for our kids in this city. Thank you.
Just want to acknowledge a couple people. County Ledge is in the house. Can we give it up for County Ledge? All of our county legislators, wave your hands. We got City Council in the house. Give it up for City Council. We also have our state regent, Regent Hell. Please give it up for him. And then also joining us, we have Commissioner Malloy and Vice President LeBron also here with us. Please give it up for them. The whole board is here. Regent Norwood is here also. Please wave your hand, Regent Norwood. He was here. He left. Sorry. All right, so we want to thank Dr. Peluso. Thank you for that presentation. And now we'll enter our first guided table discussion. You'll start having a discussion with some people at your table now. So introduce yourself, and you have 15 minutes to have your conversation. All right, wrapping up discussion. In 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right. So I hope everybody had productive conversation. I did join the table, and we did have great conversation. So next, we want to introduce the president of the SLC, David. David is a 12th grader, and he is the president of the Student Leadership Congress. Please, everybody, give it up for our Student Leadership President, David.
Good morning. How is everybody? Oh my God, how is everybody? Perfect. All right. My stuff together. Good morning, everyone. My name is Deo Pion. I'm a 12th grader at Rochester Early College International High School. And I'm also the president of the Student Leadership Congress. For almost 50 years, the Student Leadership Congress has served as a cannon to allow students to turn their grievances, unique experiences, and voices into an array of change in the forms of new policy, new ideas, and new opportunities to shoot for growth in their communities and themselves. The Student Leadership Congress, in its lifelong goal to increase student voice, was tasked to present legislative priorities students were passionate about. Next slide, please. Oh, wait. There we go. But before I turn it over to my peers, I want to almost remind all of you some pillars of thought as you listen and see this presentation created by us students. James Baldwin, one of my personal heroes, said that the paradox of education is precisely this: that as one begins to examine the society in which he's being educated. This quote, and its whole, is that as individuals become more conscious through learning, they naturally begin to question and scrutinize the society in which they are being educated. I want you all to put this idea into practice during this presentation, that while we students present to you our priorities that we are passionate about, you as our community members, open your eyes and open your ears and be humble to learn. This presentation isn't just given by students. It's made for students and should be treated as a consensus of student leaders in the Rochester City School District. And without any more soapboxing, I'd like to hand it over to a person who needs no introduction, Hazel Roberts.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Hazel Roberts. For those who may not know me, I'm the Vice President of the Student Leadership Congress, and I'm currently a junior at Wilson Magnet High School. This morning, I'm here to talk about the lack of accountability for the charter schools within our area. By going to a high school within the RCSD, I constantly hear the phrases, I'm transferring, or this school called my mom and told her all these amazing attributes and promises. But at the end of the day, it's all persuasion techniques that isn't always benefiting the student. Within our district, there's about 21 charter schools that take about 7,820 of our students. That's roughly 34% of our total enrollment, and the numbers continues to grow each year. By our students going to charter schools, the district is obligated to continue to pay for them. These funds are then allocated without district or district shareholders' input or insight. As the number of students going to charter schools increases, it affects existing district programs and classrooms. In addition to that, when our students leave, they aren't guaranteed certified teachers. Unlike in a district where teachers are required to hire certified teachers, charter schools use what they define as qualifying credentials to hire staff. Furthermore, all charter schools share their enrollment numbers or graduation data. They also don't share the data where they account for all the students they've sent back to the RCSD who didn't meet their standards. I've been a student of the RCSD since I was in elementary school, but due to moving around a lot, I have experienced other educational options and backgrounds. Nevertheless, I'm back where I started, and I'll be graduating as a proud RCSD scholar next year. So today, I'm not arguing that charter schools are bad, but rather the fact that they need more accountability, hence limiting charter school expansion won't deprive students and families of school choice. As we hold one accountable, let's hold everyone accountable. Thank you. Now I would like to pass the mic to Cherish.
Hello, my name is Cherish. I'm a junior at Rochester Early College. I'm here today to talk about how because of suspensions, students collectively lose hundreds of thousands of days in the classroom each year, with the most affected students being of low income and marginalized groups. Whether students are suspended in or out of a school, they are not in a classroom, which means there needs to be an alternative. However, these alternatives need to be proactive, not reactive. If we could stop these problems before it happens, then we can ultimately circumvent the need of suspensions altogether. And this is where a positive school climate is vital. Now I'll pass it on to Maya.
Good morning. I am Maya Adams, a sophomore at East High School. A positive school climate is where students can thrive and succeed in all aspects of their education, and where the need of suspending students will become obsolete through building connections and meaningful experiences where students are supported. This can include, but is not limited to, student celebrations, after-school bonding activities for students, clubs based on student interest, and intramural sports. Experiences like these help students build relationships with their school and bring a sense of excitement to classroom learning. When students are excited to learn and are engaged in what they're doing, they are much less likely to engage in harmful activities. Also, establishing positive professional relationships between students and educators is vital to help learning seem more relevant and engaging for students. According to many sources, such as the National Council on Teacher Quality, effective teaching is the #1 biggest factor for student success in the classroom. Furthermore, we must put emphasis on diversity and equity in order to infuse school culture and create a sense of belonging and unity among our students. We cannot stress it enough how important it is for our students to be connected and culturally active in the classroom. Student diversity and equity isn't just a token term, it's a real form of engagement. When you are around people you can relate to, it creates an environment where you feel welcomed. We all know the feeling you get when you feel welcomed, safe, and heard. When students are seen, heard, and welcomed and are cherished for their identity, heritage, and background, and not just academics, it tells them that we care. When students are cared for, they are in the classroom. When students are seen, they listen. And when students are welcomed, they reject harmful actions because we welcomed them first. Suspensions are not the answer. We need solutions, and solutions these are. Now I'll pass it on to Maeve and Ashani.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Ashani Phillips, a 12th grader at James Monroe High School.
And I'm Maeve Delahanty, a senior at World of Inquiry School.
Just as Maya implied, teachers are the skeleton, the framework, and the blueprint of our schools. Without them, none of us will be here today. The educator and activist Nicholas Ferroni once said, "Students who are loved at home come to school to learn, and students who aren't come to school to be loved." The role of a teacher cannot be summoned in a neat bulleted list, working in impossible circumstances with all kids from all different backgrounds. Teachers play one of the most important roles in our education system, from lesson planning to emotionally supporting students and everything in between. Teachers are enlisted with the task of protecting and educating our students, which is why their job cannot be undervalued. School culture begins in the classroom, with the interaction between peers and between students and teachers. The joy of learning is not always found on elaborate field studies or when high scores come back from an assessment. Joy can also be found in those small moments in the classroom when students are learning together. Perhaps it is an excited discussion between two classmates about a book or that final aha moment in a math lesson. The everyday harmony that occurs in the classroom is largely because of the teacher, which is why it is so important that we support them and ensure that there is a certified teacher in every classroom. The decrease in staff is not only reducing important instructional information for our students, but it's also taken away from essential one-on-one time because of how packed our classrooms are. Stability in the classroom does not seem like a priority. Substitutes come in and out with different teaching techniques, and a lot of students are not able to grasp the information being taught to them. The students are not the only ones suffering from this crisis. Teachers are as well. Getting classes filled with students can become overwhelming. Teachers have to worry about the students who distract the class to ones who don't understand it. Not only are our schools short on teachers, but also counselors and advisors. Counselors and advisors are indispensable in our schools because they give the students a support system.
In order to address our district's teacher shortage, we have to address the issues of access and retainment. If there is a student interested in pursuing teaching, it is our community's duty to support their education. Perhaps this means developing more high school programs that provide pathways to the field of education, or offering additional financial assistance to education students in college. Many students that go to college struggle with classes and cost. Enlisting a mentorship program with current teachers may increase the success rate of city students while building loyalty to our district. While it is important that we have teachers in all classrooms, it is equally important that they are high-quality teachers. There are so many factors a school cannot control. We can't control a student's home life or if they come to school hungry, but we can control the quality of the teacher in the classroom. Studies show that students benefit from having a teacher that looks like them. Although our district is taking steps to increase the diversity of our staff, we have a long way to go. One way to gain a more diverse teaching staff is by building relationships with people in our own community. We have to allow different pathways to teacher certification that accommodate the various circumstances of Rochester's working population. Maybe there's an accelerated route to teaching for paraprofessionals who already work with students daily and understand the dynamics of a classroom. Maybe we offer programs for adults working in city rec centers who are taking care of children and understand the complexities of growing up in poverty. We have to reach out to the people in our city while also raising our students to see teaching as a viable option. Our children's education is everyone's responsibility. We can all collectively work towards building strong teachers. It takes a village to raise a child. Rochester is our village, and our students are our children. Let us find a way to support our students and teachers and to increase academic and humanistic success. Now I'll turn it over to Hazel for our closing remarks.
Can all of us come together before I deliver these remarks? Come on, guys, don't be shy. Come on, Ms. Davis, you too. SLC is in the building this morning. Come on. Let's go. Let's go. Yes. You ready? Okay. Today, the Student Leadership Congress has expressed areas of opportunity and priority for y'all to invest in our schools that will engage students and change the framework of how students in the RCSD learn and engage in the classroom, which allows for continuous growth and improvement. With the support of everyone, we would like to continue working on these projects. Our sincere expectation is that these programs and activities will be implemented in all the schools and that we will receive your support in funding these projects. The SLC believes strongly in equity and equitable access to resources and programs to all our students in our schools. We are the product of the RCSD. Thank you all for the support.
And I hear we're now going to segue into our next priority discussion.
All right, we're gonna go into one more discussion. Speak about what you heard the young people saying. There should be a student at every table, so if you have a student with you, speak to that student, and we're gonna have this discussion for 10 minutes. Without further ado, I'll reintroduce the president of SLC, President David.
All right. So now I would like to introduce our keynote speaker for today, Assemblyman Meeks. Assemblyman Meeks, Assemblyman Meeks is a native of Rochester, New York. Assemblyman Meeks and his wife Katrina raised their children in the 19th Ward. Damon and his family worships at Anon, I hope I'm saying that right, Anon Missionary Baptist Church. His educational background includes an associate's from MCC and a bachelor's from SUNY Brockport. Damon has received additional labor-related trainings and certifications from Cornell University. As a servant leader in the Rochester community, Assemblyman Meeks has been an advocate for quality education, fair wages, workers' rights, and social justice. As an administrative organizer with 1199 SEIU, Assemblyman Meeks represented thousands of healthcare sector employees, in which he took on an array of tasks inclusive of bargaining labor contracts. The Assemblyman has mobilized workers around workplace issues such as improved wages, benefits, as well as dignity and respect. Shortly after achieving employment with 1199 SEIU in November 2010, he became an active member of the Rochester chapter of the Coalition of Black Trade Unionists. Give it up for Assemblyman Meeks. You want to hold the mic, please? Yes,
I'm put it up here. Thank you. How are you? Thank you. I appreciate the introduction. If you want to hear the rest of it, it's right there in your pamphlets. How's everyone doing this morning? All right, I'm truly blessed and glad to be here this morning. I am RCSD, proud graduate, John Marshall High School, 19. All right, yeah, we still exist. And you know, I remember when I was in high school, we were working on a number of different projects. And you know, one of the things that we were often able to do was lean on our alumni. And I feel sad because I'm not considered alumni of John Marshall. And I make decent money, so somebody will reach out sometime, make me honorary alumni or somewhere, you know, just, you're welcome at, well, yeah, you're down the street from my house. Okay, I guess well Wildcats? So I'm Assemblyman Demond Meeks, representing the 137th Assembly District. I want to say thank you to everyone that's here this morning. Please give our youth a round of applause. I'm so thankful and grateful to have you all here and present and to present your views and share your views and feel comfortable in doing so, so we commend you on that. I have a number of things here that have been discussed today. I was given some directives, so you see me down as a keynote, but I was given directives as to what I'm gonna talk about. So I'm gonna try to stay in my lane and touch on some of these things and also bless you with a few other things. So foundation aid, we'll start there. We heard on that. I don't really have too much to expound on. Just know that years ago, I was an organizer with the Alliance for Quality Education, and this was a fight that we had been fighting for some time. And I really think that we were able to pull it, get it to the finish line. If it had not been for that strong delegation from Rochester, New York, I don't know if it would have happened. So give our delegation a round of applause. We just talked about the conversation on charter schools and some of the challenges therein. And you know, I posed a question as to why some of our parents send their children to charter schools. And sometimes, you know, I think it's parents are willing to try something that they don't quite know based upon certain frustrations that they deal with. And I think that, you know, we have to be intentional in providing resources and services to those parents as it relates to being a district. I think that parents are key and quite instrumental. Often we see fights throughout the district, whether they're labor fights, whether there's things that students have grown frustrated with. And all too often we see these fights take place and we don't see parents engage in the process. So I think that we have a major responsibility to assure parent involvement. I am a parent of Rochester City School District graduates. And one of the things that I will often say, and I truly believe this, you can show me our most challenged school in our district, and you show me actively engaged parents, and I'll show you a child that will be successful. So moving on to career and technology education. Anytime I think of CTE, a person that I think about is my buddy Mike Foster, who's a childhood friend. Mike is now about 46, going on 47. And Mike was a graduate of Edison Tech. And the cool thing about Mike, like I want to say his sophomore year in high school, he decided he wanted to do the electrical program at Edison Tech. And his junior year through his senior year, he did a co-op with Rochester Gas and Electric. And through that co-op, he has been working at Rochester Gas and Electric since he was 16. He definitely had more than enough years in to retire, but guess what? He's just not old enough. And the cool thing about Mike grew up in the neighborhood with a number of us. You know, we grew up in, you know, the Genesee Street area, and Mike grew up right down the street from a popular open-air drug market. And Mike loved hip-hop, loved everything about hip-hop. No, Mike was gainfully employed at RG&E. So when the brothers would be in the video with the big gold chain, guess who went and bought a big gold chain? Say Mike. Mike? All right. So when the brothers decided that it was about the big body Chevy on the 30-inch rims, guess who went and bought that? When the brothers was into the big body Lexus with the nice rims and the tinted windows, guess who bought that? But Mike also invested in real estate, right? And he invested in other things to make sure that his money was still growing. And I say that to say we can show our children by way of CTE, Career Technology Education, that the things that you want, you can actually achieve. And it doesn't take you being the best athlete or the best rap artist to have those things. You can actually achieve those things. So y'all make sure y'all let Mike know I shouted him out. Anybody know Mike? So skipping down here, we're gonna touch on a few other things. Pre-kindergarten, special education, we definitely recognize the need. And one of the things that we're investing in at the state level is early intervention. I think that is absolutely necessary when we're talking about. And the significance to the early intervention for me, just growing up, I don't know, I'm dating myself now, but I went to number 5 school early on for a preschool program, and they had a program called Twix. Anybody remember the Twix program at number 5 school? Okay. So the significance of the program was, you had students who had, I would say, different abilities or different challenges, and recognizing those challenges, this program met the students where they were. I'm so grateful for my mom, Velma Meeks, and she realized early on that something was going on with her child's speech, my ability to pronounce certain words, and often stuttering and speaking. So with that, she said, okay, well, let me tap into some of the resources that are offered through the Rochester City School District. And she tapped into those resources so that she was able to get me into the speech lab and other programs that were quite helpful, which allow me to stand before you today in this manner. So thank you. So I think the early intervention is absolutely necessary. Also, engaging brothers in the community. I recently talked to a brother, and his story was similar to mine, but he wasn't connected to those resources that I was connected to. So he said he was often picked on because of the way he spoke. So in turn, that led to him using his hands and punching people when they picked on him. And eventually he got so good with his hands that he was recruited by the neighborhood gangs. And this brother ended up doing 20 plus years in prison. But he's now back home, and he's doing a lot of peer advocacy work, and he's committed to the change. So, social, emotional health, and mental health services. We know these things are needed. We know that they work. There's been different challenges that we've seen since the pandemic. I think that there has to be a collective push from the city school district, our state representatives, our local representatives, sign-on letters, community involvement to say to the federal government, these resources that we received during COVID have been helpful, and we have to maintain those resources. The same conversation for the state. These resources have been helpful. We see the results, and we need to maintain those resources. Also, not simply maintaining them, but looking at the cost of living and the rate of inflation and COLA, and making sure that we're taking care of those who take care of us. I think there's also a need for testimonials, being able to speak to these programs and the benefits of those programs. Proud individuals, proud parents that are willing to step out and share those testimonials, and also recognizing barriers, the barriers to qualifying our staff to work in these spaces. One of the things that I've signed on to was legislation to put an end to testing for individuals who are working on their licensed social work, licensed masters in social work. What we found that those tests in a number of instances tend to be discriminatory and biased. So it doesn't dictate how good the social worker will or won't be. So I think that we need to be intentional in recognizing the barriers that our community are faced with as it relates to success in these spaces. Teachers, staff shortages. We know that this has been a challenge. I majored in history, and something that I believe in is sometimes we have to look back to history to see what we were able to accomplish then and how we could implement those type of strategies today. Some of us may be familiar with the historic North Star program. And if not, I'm gonna name a few people you may remember or may know, like Dr. Andrew Ray, Mr. Joseph Bivens, Brother Levert Walker, Brother Maurice Bell, Not only are these brothers esteemed members of the greatest fraternity in the world, Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated, but these brothers came here by way of the North Star program. They were actually recruited to Rochester, New York from their homes in the South to come to Rochester and teach students in the Rochester community. Another thing, every individual I just named were my mother teacher at some point. And I didn't know this until I became a member of the organization. And they said, "You know Velma Meeks?" I said, "Yeah, that's my mother. She was one of my best students." I said, "She was one of my best teachers." You know, and that's the reality of it. You know, great teachers lead to great students and lead to those students also become great teachers, whether it's in the system or just at home or in their communities. So I think that in looking at that type of program, and this is something that I mentioned to our superintendent just this past week, looking at those type of programs, how they were beneficial, and really thinking out of the box as a community, pooling our resources together. We know that there's a number of schools that are slated to close, but we also know that there's a number of schools historically that were closed and are some of the nicer apartment buildings in our community. So some food for thought is taking some of the buildings that we may potentially close, working with the city who will then own those buildings, and outfitting those buildings similar to a dorm room type atmosphere where we recruit teachers from all over the country, in particular some of our historical black colleges as well as our SUNY schools. And then we offer them some free housing. We offer them free housing in these buildings. So it's sort of like a dorm room setting. And not only are we going to offer you free housing, we're going to connect you to resources within our community, such as Consumer Credit Council services to help you build up those credit scores, connect you with the city as it relates to first-time home buyer programs and grants, the Urban League of Rochester, organizations such as ESL that may offer some decent rates on the first-time home buyer loans. And then we get those individuals connected, we get their credit scores up, and now we're introducing them to home ownership in Rochester, New York. So it goes a step beyond just locking them in a 5-year contract for what we're offering them, but we may possibly get them to sign on to a 15-year or 30-year mortgage and a different type of vested in the community. So that's some food for thought. I don't see anyone taking notes, but we can. So that's, you know, something that I think could be quite beneficial. Also, you know, we know some of the challenges with some of the testing practices, and in recognizing that, I introduced the bill 1784, which directs the Department of Civil Services to conduct a study on competitive examinations for public employment to determine whether the contents of such examinations have discriminatory effects on minority examinees. Technology. We know that the cost of technology in some means have gone up and in some ways possibly gone down based upon supply and demand. But we know that we have a responsibility to assure, we experienced this during the pandemic, that we weren't necessarily prepared, our students having the technology to be able to learn from home in real time. And we know that the world is ever changing, one challenge after the next, so we want to make sure that our students have the resources that they need to be able to take home and study from, and also for our teachers to be able to reach them within their households. But I also would say that we have a responsibility in handing over that technology to educate the children on the reach, educate the children as far as our students are concerned, and their families on the reach and the power of technology before handing it over. So it's not a thing of simply saying, hey, hand over the tablet, and we know that it's due back on this particular day. But know that there's a huge reach as it relates to the World Wide Web, and that the things that we put out there is forever out there in space. And to explain to our youth and to our children that you have to be mindful of what you put out there because it can affect you not only today, but also in the future. We've seen some of the horror stories historically where a child may have sent a text message of some sort to someone who they, cared for, and that information was shared throughout the school. And that particular child may go on to cause harm to themselves based upon dealing with that level of embarrassment. So again, I think in making sure that our children have the technology, also the reach and the power of that technology. I wrote down here a holistic approach. Oh, transportation. We get it at the state level. That's something that our delegation will continue to fight on and really push this as well. And I'm also a member of the Black, Puerto Rican, Hispanic, Asian Caucus, as well as the Black Task Force. And being part of the Black Task Force, we're intentional in looking at certain things that, and its effects on our community. So with that, I think, the 1.5 mile distance and having transportation is definitely needed, and we'll bring that up in that space as well and continue to drive it home. That's my oh, okay. You know how the preacher come and pull a coattail, like, hey, okay, your time has elapsed. So with that, really a holistic approach, recognizing and working together, again, touching on the history, looking at the challenges in our community, and I think we have to look at them holistically from the cradle to the grave. Looking at some of those challenges and how do we collectively work together to affect that change. And I say to us as adults, the children are watching. Again, to us as adults, the children are watching. So when we have disagreements and we don't necessarily see eye to eye on things, I think we have a responsibility to come in a room together and hash those things out and talk through those things. And, it's not always about who's the loudest. But one thing I truly believe in, and I was taught this early on, we have to educate, agitate, and organize. I was a labor organizer for some years, and I would often get people saying, everybody want X, Y, Z. Everybody in the facility would like this. Everybody in the facility would like that. So as an organizer, I said, okay, well, let's do this. I'll be in here on Tuesday morning. I need you to get 25 people signed up on this petition. I'll be back to collecting on Friday. Friday came around in some instances, we had a full petition. Other instances, well, everybody wanted, but nobody was willing to sign off on a petition. Well, I believe that if you truly want it, you'll sign a petition and you'll do the advocacy. So sometimes, you get some that look for certain platforms to boost certain things. That's great. But again, our children are watching. When we have disagreements, let's take it upon ourselves to come in the room and let's look at how we can work together, how we could potentially mediate a situation amongst us as adults and come out of the room and work together collectively. I didn't get a hand clap on that one, but it's all right. It's all right. It's all right. Hey, if it hurt, say ouch. If it hurt, say ouch. That works too. That's one of the practices I have with my wife. See, she might say something I'm like, ouch. So in doing so, we must fully fund and strengthen, I mentioned this before, the early intervention programs throughout our district. Also, parental advocacy, I believe it's a best practice. But also, what is the best practice? I'm one that believes that it doesn't, just because you're a parent, it doesn't make you the best parent or the worst parent, right? All parents don't know how to come into a school and advocate for their children. Some parents may come into school and be frustrated based upon hearing one story and not the other story and drop a few F-bombs and say, hey, I don't appreciate the way you're treating my child. And sometimes the first response is, let's call a sentry, let's call the police and kick them out of our school, and they're kicked out indefinitely. However, some food for thought, we could work with our children and work with our parents. A parent coming into the district, bringing a kindergartner in the district, offer a training class as it relates to parental advocacy, teaching parents best practices in advocating for your child. If you come in, you drop the F-bomb, you seem irate, that may not get you what you're trying to achieve. But we can connect you to the Office of Parent Engagement, and they can work with you on best practices in advocating for your child. And not only teach you best practices, but they can also help advocate on your behalf in the school. I know that because I used them before as a parent. And I told Mr. Kenneth Davis, I don't need you to go in here and talk for me. I just need you to be present as a witness. And when we walked out that room, he said, Mr. Meeks, I appreciate the way you handle business. And those resources are there, so let's be mindful of those resources. And then any and everyone here that attended college before, please raise your hand. All right, cool. So with that, anyone that ever received a Scantron sheet at the end of the day or at the end of the semester, and you were able to fill out that Scantron sheet as it relates to your experiences, raise your hand. Okay. So I don't know this number, but I know that years ago, we used to spend tens of millions of dollars as a district in the realm of professional development. We had that number, professional development? Anyone knows offhand? About 10 million? Okay, about 10 million. So with that, I think that the best people to give insight or input as it relates to their experiences are our students, especially grades 9 through 12. K through 8, possibly the parents being able to give that insight. And I think if we did this at the midterm and at the end of the school year, it would be beneficial. Now, some may say, well, you know, this could potentially be a challenge. Well, we're not talking about tenure. We're not talking about teachers' rights. We're talking about insight from those in which we're serving to give us some insight so that we can improve upon our skill set. So if we have 10 millions of professional development dollars to improve upon our skill set, well, if I get feedback from those who I'm serving, I may be lacking in this particular area. I may not need to go to Florida per se for the latest training in mathematics, but I may need to go up the street to Pastor Myra Brown and get a training in the latest on racial justice trainings or cultural relevancy or, you know, understanding the demographics in which we're serving. So something to think about, some food for thought. And I will leave you all with this quote from Rochester's native son, Frederick Douglass. It is easier to build strong children than to repair broken men. With that, I love this quote because he never say, don't take up the task of repairing broken men. He just said it's easier to build strong children. So I implore you, I encourage you to be intentional in building strong children, but also be mindful that when we repair those broken men, we help our children's household. Thank you all. God bless.
Big shout out to Assemblymember Demond Meeks. I'd like to invite the Board of Education to come up here, all 7 members just to come on up. Also, I want to let you guys know that we do have tags and tickets for the Memorial Art Gallery if you want to go take a tour. We do have free tags and free tickets for you guys to go out. They are valid until 5 o'clock to 5 p.m. today. So, yeah, take advantage of that. I'll allow... Please take the stickers, the Invest in Tomorrow stickers, you know, the cups, take the legislative agenda, take it all with you. Just take it home. And do a tour of the Memorial Art Gallery. President Elliott, please give it up for President Elliott.
Hey, everybody. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Thank you all for hanging in here with us and not thinking it's robbery to come and talk about our legislative agenda for the Rochester City School District. I am really excited and thrilled about the work that we're doing, but before I get into that, let me just first of all thank Assemblymember Demond Meeks. A couple of weeks ago, I was honored to receive the Black and Hispanic and Asian award, the Barbara Clark Award for Education, and I just thought it was an honor to be the recipient of that. There with Dr. Chanel Hawkins, who also received the David F. Gann Award, and so just really thankful that I was honored for the work. But I also want to say what I noticed when we were in those awards and receiving the awards, everybody's doing this work. Everybody is committed to this. around the state, people are committed to getting this work done in whatever area that they're doing it in, whether they're involved in the community, whether they're involved in legal. Everybody is committed to doing this work. And so that was so glad to see, because sometimes you can get discouraged doing this work. But to have that kind of motivation that we saw down in Albany, I was very, very pleased to participate in that. Just want to thank also the Student Leadership Congress. Let me tell you something, I've said it before. I'll put our students against anybody in the world, right? Anybody in the world, I would put our students against. And so I want to thank David and his leadership on this. I also want to just really thank our board staff for putting this on. This is a lot of work. And those blue plates, I mean, I've never seen anything fancy like that. That's something else, you know. I could eat off a paper plate, so, but thank the board for doing that. I also want to leave, I had said, I think Assemblyman Bronson may have had to leave. But one of the things that I promised Assemblyman Bronson is that we were going to do this work. We're going to do it, right? And so I'm pleased to say even now that we've got 2 schools that are going to be coming off the receivership list, 19 schools being 1, East Upper being 2. And that every school that was on receivership have met demonstrable improvement metrics, every school. So while, you know, there's a lot that is going on, you know, and one of the things that we're critical of and we got to get better of is to tell our story better. And we're moving in that direction. We're doing a great thing. We're just sitting with Assemblyman Meeks and talking about all the great people who've come out of the Rochester City School District that we have not honored and we have not recognized in terms of the education and the work that they're doing within community. Around the world, right? We just had, I think there was, I don't know this, the young girl who plays, the basketball girl who's an Edison graduate, you know, doing great things. And so just excited that this work that we're doing. I'm also pleased to work with Dr. Peluso and his team. They are doing an amazing job. They're just getting the work done. They're getting it in. Because this is a grind. This is a true grind, and people are committed to doing it. And I just want to lastly say that the colleagues that I work with, one of the things that we've committed to doing in terms of us getting better is that we're going to be participating in a school governance training for about a year, 18 months, 2 years, that we're going to be participating in a training so that what we do is laser-like focus on student outcomes. And so that's what we're going to be doing. So if you don't see us around, it's because we really are getting to the business of the work. I'm also proud, and I think Dr. Peluso talked about, we've been recognized not only on the state level, where the state is saying they're seeing what we're doing is noticeable, also on the federal level, where we've had U.S. Secretary Cordova highlight and acknowledge the school district. So there's a lot of good stuff going on in the district. I also want to just honor and highlight our state monitor who's worked with us, who I depend on a lot in terms of my work as president. And so just want to thank everybody for coming out. This work is getting done. It's difficult work. It's behemoth, but you know, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, and we're moving in that direction. So thank you all for coming. Appreciate y'all so much, all that what you're doing for us to support us. And I continue to promise you, Assemblyman Meeks, I promise you and all of your colleagues who are in the room, we're going to get this work done. Thank you so very much.
Last but not least, Assemblymember Demond Meeks, if you don't mind coming up here, we want to give you this. This is a picture of you with some of our students. Without further ado, the event is over. Thank you, guys.